Have you ever wondered how people could build an entire money system inside a place where real money isn't even allowed? For over 150 years, prisoners in the United States used their own kind of money, and it wasn't paper, and it wasn't coins. It was cigarettes. No bank made it, no government backed it. It survived wars, it survived decades, it survived generations. Then, in less than a year, it disappeared completely. This is the story of the real money system that ran inside American prisons and the 5 different things that quietly became money after it disappeared. So here's the first question you might be asking yourself. How do you even build a money system with basically nothing to start with?
Back in 1945, a man named R.A. Radford was held in a prisoner of war camp during World War II. He didn't just get through it, he watched what was happening around him and later wrote it all down. Within days of new prisoners arriving, people started swapping things. One guy had jam, another guy had a chocolate bar. They traded. But trading like that has a problem. It only works if 2 people happen to want exactly what the other one has at exactly the same time. That's hard to line up every single day. So, without any meeting, without anyone deciding it, people slowly started using one single item to trade for almost everything else. That item was cigarettes. And once that happened, a whole market appeared out of nowhere, with prices, with exchange rates, even with something that looked a lot like inflation. Now here's the question you're probably already asking. Why cigarettes? Why not soap, or coffee, or shoes, or literally anything else sitting in that camp?
Good money really only needs a few simple things. It needs to be easy to carry, it needs to last a while without falling apart, it needs to be easy to split into smaller amounts, and almost everyone has to want it. Cigarettes checked every one of those boxes almost by accident. You could carry your entire savings in a shirt pocket. One single cigarette bought something small, a full pack bought something big. And it didn't even matter if you smoked or not. Even someone who never touched a cigarette could still trade it to someone who did. That's actually the same simple checklist that decides what becomes money anywhere in the world, whether it's gold, seashells, or the dollar bill in your wallet. It was never really about the object itself. It was always about whether people believed it would still be worth something tomorrow. Here's something you might not expect. What happens when the people in charge try to take control of that money supply themselves? It's actually already been tried. Inside that same camp, the guards tried handing out paper tickets to replace the cigarettes. It failed almost right away. Prisoners didn't trust paper that could just be printed by the same people holding them captive whenever they felt like it. But nobody could create more cigarettes out of nothing. That scarcity is exactly what made them valuable in the first place. And it's the same reason people still argue today about which currencies actually deserve trust. So if cigarette money worked for over 100 years, what actually ended it?
One single decision. In the early 2000s, prisons across the United States, both state and federal, started banning smoking completely. By 2004, the federal prison system had stopped selling or handing out cigarettes altogether. And just like that, the same currency people had used since the Civil War became something you could get punished for even holding. It was still valuable, maybe even more valuable than before. But now it was illegal and far too risky to use as everyday money. So here's a question worth asking yourself. When your money gets banned overnight, what do you replace it with?
In federal prisons, the surprising answer was a small foil pouch of mackerel, a type of fish. And it wasn't really about anyone wanting to eat it. Almost nobody did. And that was actually the whole point. Since nobody wanted to eat it, it stayed in people's lockers instead of disappearing, and it had a fixed price of about $1 at the prison store, so it worked almost exactly like a coin. In other prisons, people used postage stamps instead, small, easy to hide, and useful even to someone who never planned on mailing a single letter. And in state prisons, something completely different showed up. A researcher spent time talking to dozens of inmates and found that instant ramen noodles had quietly become the real currency people used. It had nothing to do with the smoking ban at all. It happened because prison food budgets had been cut for years, and a cheap pack of noodles had simply become more valuable to people than actual money. Out of everything on that list, which replacement do you think turned out to be the most dangerous?
Not an object at all. Debt. In some prisons, the biggest deals stopped involving anything physical changing hands. Someone would simply owe someone else, with interest added on, and if they couldn't pay, it wasn't a bank or a court coming after them. It was another person. Economists have a name for what debt turns into when there's no stable currency behind it. It turns predatory, and it turns dangerous fast, which is a strange thing to realize a prison economy has in common with parts of the real financial world outside those walls too. Cigarettes, mackerel, stamps, noodles, debt. Every single one of those items is really telling you the same thing. Money was never actually about the object. It's whatever a group of people agree to trust, especially in a place with no banks, no cards, and no way to just walk away. And once you notice that pattern inside a prison cell block, it gets a lot harder not to notice it everywhere else, too.